Welcome to my YouTube channel Perth Brightside. Before starting this video, I am not any consultant or Mara agent. The information I am providing based on my experience and knowledge. If you found my information wrong, please help me to correct it. In this video we will talk about many updates for international border open for international students and for tourism. I will also share good news for all Indian students who are waiting to travel Australia. Please like this video and subscribe my YouTube channel. First, we will talk about South Australia pilot plan. As you know, in July, South Australia has announced their pilot plan to return their international students. Please check my video to know in detail what was that plan and what conditions they have included. According to their pilot plan, they should start to invite international students from mid of September or by end of September, but on 17th September, South Australia announced that they could not decide the date to return their international student and they have to continue to wait for updates. According to the Australia Financial Review, universities are unwilling to move forward due to high ancillary costs. Cost estimations had climbed, and universities were reportedly unwilling to fork out security, nursing and other associated costs. Study Adelaide Chief Executive Karen Kent told AFR that she could not confirm or comment on delays but that she hoped students would return in the second half of the year. Kent was saying, "We're unable to put a definitive date on it at the moment, but we're still working towards the second half of the year, which I realize we're in, but that's still the intention." Seriously? I mean, students are ready to pay flights expense. If cost is becoming one aspect of operationalizing the plan, then don't worry, students will pay their quarantine expense as well, and there are many students are ready to pay. But I feel this is just an excuse from Chief Executive to buy some more time. Next update is, Federal Tourism Minister Dan Tehan says he believes Australia international border will be open by latest Christmas at least. Mr. Tehan said on Wednesday, date 22nd September, the government was getting its systems ready, including vaccine passports, to allow people to leave Australia and return without having to go through hotel quarantine. Under the National Reopening Plan, Australians are set to be allowed to travel overseas again once 80% of people have received 2 vaccine doses. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Scott Morrison said Australia expects international visitors, including skilled migrants and students, to return when borders are reopened. Mr. Morrison was speaking from Washington, where he is meeting US officials and holding talks with world leaders including UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He reiterated that the federal government is planning for reopening when double vaccination levels of the population reaches 80% late this year. Mr. Morrison said, "We're expecting to be welcoming back students. We're expecting to be welcoming back skilled migrants. We're expecting to be welcoming back, when they're vaccinated, people into the country when they're vaccinated on that basis." Next update, Australia is expecting to welcome back international student before end of this year. Mr. Morrison said he had been in discussion with New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian about international travel, with the state tipped to be the first jurisdiction where fully vaccinated residents can head overseas. He said, "The Premier of NSW and I have already been working through those issues because they're likely to be the first state that goes into that opportunity. So, I look forward to that. I think Australians look forward to that." Western Sydney University Vice-Chancellor Barney Glover, who has been leading a committee planning the pilot, said airfares would be paid for by students but universities would cover the cost of quarantine. The global program will only be eligible for students fully vaccinated with Therapeutic Goods Administration, TGA, recognized vaccines including Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna and AstraZeneca. This means students who have received vaccines like Sinovac and Sinopharm, both developed by Chinese pharmaceutical companies, would likely be locked out of the program as they were not TGA approved at this time. But don't worry, I have good news for Indian international student, so don't miss it and watch till end of this video. Professor Glover said, "We encourage ATAGI, the Australian Technical Advisory Group on Immunisation, and the TGA to move quickly on this to work through the vaccination reciprocity arrangements for non-approved vaccines so we can open up more broadly. International students will quarantine in purpose-built student accommodation in Sydney and adhere to the same health and quarantine requirements set by the Australian government for returning Australians. This industry-funded quarantine model also means that international students will not be prioritised ahead of Australians returning or wanting to return home. NSW will continue to support as many returning Australian citizens and residents as possible, based on the state's weekly cap on arrivals and the capacity of our health and quarantine systems. International student arrivals will be separate to the weekly caps, and all costs associated with travel and quarantine will be borne by the education providers and returning students. Last but not the least, next update is the University of Sydney will participate small pilot program to bring some international students back to NSW in late 2021. What is the proposal to return offshore international students to the University of Sydney? Initially, the pilot program will welcome 2 flights of 250 students back to all universities in NSW in December 2021. Eligible students will also be required to complete the mandatory 14 days quarantine period. Who will be eligible to return? To be eligible to return to Sydney, students must satisfy and agree to some requirements. 1. Only a small number of students will initially be eligible to return. 2. Students will need a valid Australian student visa. 3. Students will need to return a negative COVID-19 test pre-departure. 4. For now, the pilot plan requires all inbound international students to be fully vaccinated with a TGA-recognized vaccine. 5. Eligible students will be contacted by the university once the proposal is approved. Which vaccine will I need to have to be eligible? The current list includes Moderna, AstraZeneca. This includes Vaxzevria manufactured outside such as Covishield, Janssen, or Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer. This means students are from India and other countries who has taken Covishield vaccine can also eligible in this pilot program. By seeing the current actions, we can see that NSW is seriously looking forward to open international border for students. This is the end of today's video. I hope you like it. Please press like and subscribe the channel for more updates. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye and take care.